Hello and welcome along to another episode of Robin and Jane in the Stalls. This time round, it's something a little bit different. It's something very spooky, something very scary. In fact, a show that actually comes with a warning of sudden loud noises and moments of extreme shock and tension. And I think that's what we got as we went along to see the UK tour of Ghost Stories, which has arrived in Belfast this week at the Grand Opera House. If you don't know anything about it, it's exactly what it says on the poster. It's Ghost Stories. It was created by the League of Gentlemen's Jeremy Dyson and also Andy Nyman, who was a co-creator of Derren Brown's TV show and his stage shows as well. And of course, Jane, we were there in the stalls, and we have to be careful with what you do this week because you are the queen of the spoilers. And we've had to say no spoilers this week. We can't do it.
No spoilers this week. Okay. I'm just going to say something that a couple of the stories had, shall we say, shocking and scary events happening at 3:45 in the night, which is the sort of nadir of nighttime. You know, I've always thought 3-ish was a bit dodgy too. And guess what? I woke up at 3:45 last night, having seen this, and couldn't get back to sleep. So there is an element of scariness, although if I'm absolutely honest, I don't think it's quite as scary as The Woman in Black, Susan Hill's ghost story, which I saw at the West End a few years ago. And that is a very traditional ghost story, but for some reason they managed to infuse it with real horror. I was underneath my seat by the end. This time I wasn't underneath my seat, but there were some shocking moments, weren't there?
There are shocks, there was screams from the audience as well. And
Yes.
even before the show starts, you're immersed in this kind of horror world as well, with all the noises and stuff going on. The sound guys are absolute geniuses in this show.
They are. The sound guys are absolutely amazing. I mean, they create that sort of shock horror, growly background sound that continues, and then it develops. It sort of plops into something much more dramatic, a bang, a sudden noise. And I suppose one of the scariest elements of this show was actually waiting for the paranormal events to occur. And they strung us out for quite a long time in all three of the ghost stories that we saw, so that you thought, is it going to be now? Is it going to be now? Where are they going to come from? Particularly the very dark one involving a car. I won't say any more, but that was particularly shocking when it happened. And there's a thing called a jump scare, and they use that very well.
There is. So we have a night watchman telling his story. We have the teenage boy in the car story, and then the businessman who becomes a father for the first time. And the interesting thing about that one, because I didn't know before I went into the theatre, we actually know the businessman. It's old Clive Mantle, who was in Casualty way back in the day.
Yes, and he's still got the ability to act everybody else off stage, I think. He was very suave, he was very good, and he led into the horror very well because we weren't expecting it. He was babbling on about doing business in Japan and all his important business contacts and so on. And we weren't expecting it. Then suddenly it would segue into something quite different. And we all heard the little music box sound, which, you know, indicates something very bad is going to happen. I mean, there was a soupçon of hammer horror here, I thought. Did you find that? I know you're a bit of an expert.
Yeah, I do love a good Hammer movie. And in fact, the very first horror movie that I saw at a very young age was the original Hammer Dracula with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, where, of course, old Christopher disintegrates at the end of the film and still scares me to this day. But no, there was Hammer moments. The set as well was very good and very Hammer-like, wasn't it?
The set was very good and very Hammer-like, and it adapts very well to the three venues. I mean, we always know that an old, empty, dusty building is going to prove rather unfortunate, as indeed it did. We also know that being stuck in the woods in a car is a very unfortunate thing to happen in this context, and indeed it so proved. And also it can happen that, in fact, a nursery can be the setting for some very unsettling events.
We are asked as an audience towards the start of the show as well, if we believe in the paranormal, the supernatural, and we're asked to raise our hands. I have to ask you, Jane, are you a believer?
Yes, I am. Not, I say not totally. I'm not a believer in the sense that I would go to a spiritualist meeting, I don't think. But I am a believer in that I've had one or two events in my own life that seem beyond explanation. Of course, horror works on the fact that we don't like effects without a cause that we can explain. But sometimes they're nice events. So I'm going to share one now briefly. My late mother developed dementia, tragically. She was a very brilliant woman towards the end of her life, but she could always recite the Lord's Prayer in church, word perfect. And we used to hold hands when we said the Lord's Prayer because it was a nice thing to do. And you can tell where this is going. After she died, I was in a church about a year or so later. And guess what? I just put out my hand, thinking fondly of my late mamma, and I felt the pressure of another hand coming to reassure me. And I treasure that memory to this day, and it's completely inexplicable. You could say it's what I wanted to happen. It's psychology. It is partly, but there was pressure, and it never happened before or since.
Wow. Well, my interest in all this kind of thing came from meeting a lady called Sheila Sinclair, who was a
Yes.
psychic investigator here many years ago. And she told me this amazing story. She had this thing for telling whether somebody was going to die very soon. She could predict these deaths. And indeed she did. And she told me a story about where she heard a banshee crying one night and followed this woman in her car, and this woman was killed in a car accident. So that's where
Wow,
I started to get fascinated by
that's
this,
incredible.
and then discovered the Northern Ireland Paranormal Research Association and a guy called Warren Coates, who I've had on the radio and TV with me many times over the years. And I've actually gone on some investigations with them. Things have happened. There's the famous one. We did it live on the radio when we were broadcasting from the old church in City Beat. And Warren saw a guy with a burnt face walking through the building. I used to get locked into the studio. I used to do the late show, and we used to have little fobs getting out through the door. And some nights my fob wouldn't work on the door, but I felt a presence pushing the door so that I couldn't push the door to get out. And they caught all
Good
this on
heavens.
camera, and I just used to shout out loud, "Let me out!" And the next thing the door would just open. So
Gosh.
I've had a
So
few.
you are a believer, definitely. Yes. Well, we've got a movie right there, haven't we?
Yeah,
Basically,
definitely.
or a
Yeah.
play, or a play. What else? I thought the acting was good. It's framed by a professor of the paranormal, and I thought the actor, I haven't got the name here, but I thought he was very good, actually.
The acting was good, and the timing as well. It's 90 minutes straight through as well, and the pace kind of works. There's no moments where you feel bored or you feel like switching off.
No, a few people left, whether they were too nervous, I don't know. They wouldn't be allowed back in. You wouldn't be allowed back in because it would spoil that intensity and, as you say, that immersive experience.
And there are a lot of intense moments in the show. And again, I'm going to start another campaign this week. I'm going to start a campaign to ban Pringles and minstrels
Yes,
from the show as well, because there were some
please.
very tense moments coming. And the next thing you hear is somebody crunching on their Pringles, or
Yes.
fighting over trying to rip open a bag of minstrels. I mean, what?
I know. I know what was going on. I mean, it could have been scary, the rustling and the crinkling, but basically it wasn't because one knew what was going on. It was that sweetie moment. And for some people, the sweetie moment seems to last the full 90 minutes. And I think that is a great shame. I think we ought to ban Pringles. Let's do it.
Definitely. Right. Time now for us to make up our mind, our decisions on Ghost Stories, which of course runs at the Grand Opera House right through until Saturday. Two shows on Saturday. There's a matinee in the afternoon before the evening show as well. So we're going to vote with some little ghosts we have on the screen now. So, Jane, how many little scary ghosts are you going to give Ghost Stories?
Oh, 3.5. There had to be a half because that's so sinister.
Isn't it? Well, do you know this week, Jade? I'm going to agree with you as well and give Ghost Stories 3.5 little ghosts. So there you go. That's our thoughts on Ghost Stories. As I said, it runs at the Grand Opera House right through until Saturday. If you're going to see the show, let us know what you thought. We'd love to know your thoughts on that or anything else you've seen in the theatre. And of course, we'll see you back in the stalls very soon. Next up, I think we'll be telling you about the importance of being earnest, won't we?
Absolutely. And there's also some exciting news coming up about Follies with Northern Ireland Opera later in the year, which is that Jackie Dankworth is appearing in it. daughter of Cleo Lane and Johnny Dankworth. So that, and a marvelous singer, of course, in her own right, with a great career. So I think that's one to look out for too, but not till September.
We've got loads to look forward to. Lots of theatre still to come this year. And of course, we'll see you back in the stalls sometime very soon. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.
Bye.